So speaking of writing songs, we're writing songs for our new album. We're going to go start recording our new album in January. So hopefully we'll have a new Disciple album out 2019, which will get here sooner than you think. And when we're writing, you know, sometimes we write music first, sometimes we write lyric first, sometimes that just an idea happens. And the song we're about to play is an idea that I had. So I want to tell you a little bit about that idea, how I got it. So there's a story of Cain and Abel, and Cain murders his brother Abel, and I find it very interesting that God is still speaking to Cain after he murders his brother. That gives me a lot of hope for the sins that I've committed, that God is actually still talking to this guy after he murders somebody. And I find it very, very hopeful. And God is saying to him, he says, Cain, listen, sin is lying at the door. I love the metaphor, the picture there of that sin was like lying at the door. He said, sin is lying at the door waiting to master you, but you must master it. And use the word master there. And, you know, we're, 150 years or so removed from slavery, so we don't really, somebody says the word slavery, we don't really, it doesn't really resonate in our mind, you know, what that kind of looks like. But, you know, I'm from the South, I'm from East Tennessee, and so even 150, 160 years later, we're still like, there's this shame and this guilt that comes along with just being from the South. You're told about it, you know, whatever, you feel this shame and this guilt about slavery. And I've had many, many years to think about it, and all these years to contemplate it, and I've come to this conclusion, that genocide is probably one of the worst evils that has ever been done by man. That genocide, killing a race of people to kill them, just absolute evil. But slavery is, in my opinion, we can debate it, but in my opinion, slavery is infinitely worse. A slave doesn't get to decide when to wake up. A slave does not get to decide when to go to bed. And a slave does not get to decide where to go, what to do, anything. A slave decides nothing. A slave does not get to decide who to love. A slave is a slave. And the Bible says that we have a relationship with God. We give our life to God, and He sets us free, and we become His children. Who the Son sets free is free indeed, but freed us from what? It said that we had a relationship with sin. What was the relationship that we had with sin? That sin was our master, and we were sin's slave. You think about that, when you think about it, a lot of us don't actually look at sin that way, about how it was. A lot of us don't actually picture the horror, the horrificness of slavery when we think about our past life and sin. And how we did not decide. You know, it'll allow you to actually have a lot of grace for somebody who doesn't know Jesus, who's actually acting out and doing some really terrible stuff. That person did not decide when they wanted to wake up that day. That person did not decide what they were going to do. They were literally chained as a slave to sin. And I had this picture of, like, God says to Cain, He says, sin is lying at the door waiting to master you, but you must master it. I was like, you know, sin is kind of like a psycho ex-girlfriend. Now just wait, let me explain here, okay? I know that any of you have ever had a psycho ex-girlfriend or have been a psycho ex-boyfriend. See, I have been a psycho ex-boyfriend and had a psycho ex-girlfriend, so I know both sides of the game, people. I know what it's like to be the weirdo and experience the weirdo, okay? So I've got all the information here. I've played on both teams. So a psycho ex-girlfriend, you know, like you break up, whatever, and they don't stop. They're not going to let go. They're still coming after you. You get married, you have kids, and they get on the Facebook and they're just like, oh, you look so cute with your new family, you know, whatever. And then all they're really trying to do is just to get you to click on their page to go see how they're doing, you know, right? To go see, you know, they just got done with their workout or whatever, and they wanted you to see a picture of it just to make sure you saw that. And that's how the psycho folks work. And maybe if you're not married, or maybe you stayed single after them, or whatever, 2 or 3 years goes by, and psycho ex-girlfriend, and you're like, you forget, we have selective memory. You're like, oh yeah, I remember her. I remember her. We used to date. Well, I'm not really dating anybody. I'll ask her out. Go out to the movies. You're sitting in the movie theater 5 minutes into the movie, and then all of a sudden you're like, I remember now why I hate you. I remember why it took 5 minutes, and now I'm out of here. But see, that's what I'm talking about. See, sin is that way. Sin comes along and tries to remind you. See, we don't think of sin as the slave, the master relationship, and it tries to remind you, and it says, do you remember that night? It was me and you. Sin talking, okay? Let's sin. The psycho girl. Hey, you remember that night? It was so amazing. We went to the thing, and we were just all wasted, and we were just blissed out of our mind, and we were going down the stairs, and we thought we were being quiet, but we weren't being quiet. The mom came down, and she was ready to do. We stripped out of the car, and you could be. We were going 15 miles an hour, and everybody was going, slow down. Don't you remember? you're like, and sin's talking to you and saying, hey, wasn't that great? Wasn't that awesome? And sin never says, you know, how you woke up, you know, in your own vomit, literally face down in your own vomit. Sin never says how all your friends turned their back on you because you were untrustworthy. Sin never talks about how you lost your family. Sin never reminds you of the rehab. Sin never never says any of those things until after you give in. Then once you give in, then sin, that sweet talker of a psycho ex-girlfriend sin, sweet talker, says, man, you're the worst human being ever, right? You don't deserve anything good, right? Oh, the same one that was just telling us all these nice things in our ear turns around and tells us all the worst things that we could say about ourselves. I was like, you know, that psycho ex-girlfriend sin, I want to write a song to her. Let her know that she used to own me. I used to be a slave to sin. Sin used to be my master. But now I belong to Jesus. And I know that sin is after me. I know that sin is lying at the door of my heart waiting to master me, saying, hey, I know this Jesus thing. I know it's pretty cool. I know it's working out. But you look good. Just in case you ever need me. In case if you get angry again. Remember how we used to cope with anger? If you ever feel shame again. Remember how we used to deal with that? If you ever just feel like you need me, I just want you to know I'm going to be here. And I just wanted to write a letter. A love letter, if you will, to my psycho ex-girlfriend and say that you used to have me, but you'll never have me again. This song's called Dear Ex.